In this video, I'm going to walk through step by step on a project that I did for a real client. This is a request for proposal project that I did recently using Pinecone vector databases and also AI agents to be able to retrieve request for proposal questions based on the data that was already inserted into Pinecone vector databases. For those of you who are not familiar with requests for proposals, this is a very common practice, especially in the US for majority of the businesses. So if they're bidding to win a contract for a service or for some kind of a project, usually they get sent a request for proposal, which is basically a questionnaire about their businesses and their services they offer. So therefore, they have to provide all these questions and answers in order for them to be able to be qualified or win that project. So usually the request for proposal is done in traditional databases, but for this client, I built a vector database request for proposal project, which performs way better than regular traditional databases because it uses obviously vectors to be able to embed the question and answer document into the database, and then you can easily retrieve it via a RAG. So this is going to be a very informative real project that you can build and potentially sell to your clients as well. So the way this works is instead of this providing you a answer directly, what it does is it's been prompted to only return the question and answer pairs that are inside the database instead of responding to the query. So for example, if I ask, how do you handle unexpected risks? It should grab all of the questions and answers that are related to this query exactly the way it is inside the document. There you go. Perfect, right? You can see right here, not only is it grabbing the understanding the context, it's also based on the prompt, the system prompt. It's grabbing the question and the answer chain answer pair exactly as it is on this document that we inserted. So that's why I said this is very powerful, because this gives you the ability to handle and control all of the responses that you're getting from this particular RAG, right? We're gonna walk through step by step on how to build a index on Pinecone vector databases, so that way you can see how that works. And then also I'm gonna point out a few things regarding upserting data or deleting vectors that exist inside a vector database if you're making a change to the original document. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Zubair. My YouTube channel, my school community, and my AI agency is all about building incredible and practical AI agents for businesses and for personal use cases. Our community is full of amazing individuals who are either business owners or AI agency owners, or people who are trying to learn how to build AI agents to be able to make money or for their own personal use case. We have a great community and our classroom is full of incredible topics. So if you're serious about learning how to make money with AI agents or learn how to use automation to be able to start your own business, feel free to join the school community. I'll have the link in the description below. In my school community, you will have access to these exclusive deep dive topics like vector databases, all things AI agents, when to use which AI agent for what purpose, so that way you have a full understanding of how things work. And we also have calls that you can jump in and ask any questions if you run into any issues. And then of course, at any time, you can always post your questions in the Ask and Assist channel, and somebody or myself will be able to get back to you. Again, I'll put the link in the description. I hope to see you there. All right, let's get back to the demo. All right, so we're going to start fresh actually. So I'm going to head over to my Pinecone vector database, and I'm going to go to my databases. So if you're not familiar with Pinecone vector database, it's an incredible vector database. And the way to utilize this, that you can have a free account and it will give you the ability to create indexes. Once you create your account, you will head over here. Obviously the indexes for you, it's going to look blank, but we're going to start fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and click on create index, and I'm going to name this RFP demo. All right, and then as far as the configuration, you're gonna select the different AI models that exist when it comes to embeddings. And embedding models, what they do is they convert data. In our case, this is going to be a text data into vectors, which are numerical representation of that data. So that way the AI models will be able to retrieve and understand the context behind the data itself, not just have a keyword matching in there. So that's why there are several models that are available, at least for Pinecone, that you can utilize. OpenAI has 3 models here. Depending on how big your document is, you can choose either the text embedding 3 large, there's the embedding ADA 2, and then also the embedding 3 small. I'm going to use 3 small because obviously for this demo, I'm only using a dummy data document, RFP document. But for whatever use case you have, you will choose your model based on that. So once I choose that, in the bottom, I'm going to come and choose AWS. Again, this is a free account, so you only have limited options, but for our purposes, it's going to work. And then the region, you can select Virginia East. Again, this is a free account, so this will only allow that. And on the bottom, as you can see, it says starter plan. This is their free plan, but this works fine. So I'm going to click on create index. And now what this is going to do is create this index inside of our database, and it will initialize it. And once the initialization process gets complete, right here, you see no records yet. That means that there is no document, or there is nothing inside this particular index inside the database, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and add that. So in order to create this dummy data, I created this document with this question and answer for this construction management company. Again, this is just dummy data that I utilized ChatGPT for, but for your client, obviously you will have your own data. And again, this could be a long document, right? So if you're working with a client that has a bunch of existing RFPs that they have done, what you could do is just combine all of that into one document, so that way you can insert it. I'm using Google Drive. Depending on what your use case is, or depending what a database you're using, you can connect that directly to n8n as far as getting that document and inserting it. But for my purpose, as I said, I'm using Google Drive. So I inserted this sample RFP Q&A into my Google Drive right here. And as you can see here, now I'm going to go back and go to my, let me delete this data that already exists. I'm going to refresh the page. All right, perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that data. I'm going to grab that document that's inside of my Google Drive. So right here, if I double click here, by the way, as far as the trigger, so you can have an automated trigger where if depending on your use case, again, this really depends on what your client is trying to achieve. For this purpose, for this client, I had their entire Q&A documents that they had done previously for their other clients, or for other RFPs that they had done. So I didn't need to have it automated as far as the trigger itself, but you can add a Google Drive trigger here, so that way you can monitor a folder. So whenever somebody inputs a new document, then you can update it in the Pinecone vector database. One very, very important point here is that to make sure that if you have a trigger from Google Drive that's gonna update an existing document, or if they're adding more document for this to be inserted to the Pinecone vector databases, you want to make sure that you delete the existing vectors that are present inside the vector database. Otherwise, you'll have vector overlap, and the result is not going to be that great. So for Pinecone specifically, they have this n8n delete vectors. So right here, you can delete all, which means that you can select the name of the index, and then you can delete the existing vectors. So that way, when you're inserting or updating a new document and you're running this workflow, it's deleting the existing vectors and providing or updating it with the new vectors that it's going to use that file. So that way it populates it with the fresh and the most recent data. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You do have the option to upsert as well, but I would recommend staying away from that, just because you have way better results if you delete the vectors. And again, you can do this dynamically via this endpoint. So you can use the API endpoint to, every time a new file gets updated, you can have a trigger there, so that way you can delete the existing vectors and insert a new one. But anyways, again, if you're using this, for example, for a local host, I know there's a few tutorials out there that I believe Cole did one that used quadrant vector databases and Olama to be able to upsert, meaning that he used filter, I believe, to filter the ID, or actually find the document by the ID, remove it, and then upsert it. I think that's what he did. Again, feel free to check out his video. But the caveat to that is that you have to, I believe Cole did this too. He created a custom node and he used LangChain code to be able to grab identify the file ID inside the vector database, because n8n does not have a native integration or a way to do that natively. So therefore you have to create a custom node. And then also Jim from n8n also did this. So if you look right here, I'll put the link in the description for this. Jim Lee, so he is great. He's very active in the n8n community. So again, he also provided a workflow that gives you the ability with the custom node to upsert a document. And right here, I actually tested it. So it's this one right here. So this uses LangChain code to handle vector store upserts, and he uses Pinecone vector databases. So this right here, this is the custom node that he created, and he added this code. Like I said, this works completely fine. So I'm going to put the link for this in the description. So if you want to use that upsert functionality, use this with Pinecone, or if you're using Quadrant, then look at Cole's video because he walks through step by step on how to do that. But anyways, for our purposes, this was something, like I said, that didn't need that particular functionality of upserting. So this is going to be something that we'll directly download from our Google Drive. So if I go to my Google Drive node right here, again, you'll just add your account. The resource is going to be file, the operation is going to be download, and when you click from the list, as long as that data or as long as that document exists in the Google Drive, you'll be able to pull that up. So I'm doing that here, sample RFP Q&A, and now I'm going to go inside this. Same thing, you'll add a Pinecone vector database store node, and the operation for this will be inserting documents because we're grabbing that document and putting it inside our vector database. And the Pinecone index, if I click on the list here, so now I can go ahead and use this RFP demo because this is what we said, right? Yep, because right here I named this index that I just created called RFP demo. So I select that. As far as the embedding, I'm using OpenAI's embedding model, so I'm going to use the small one right here. But again, depending on what you're using, make sure you're updating this properly. And then for the default data loader, so obviously you need to have a way to load this data in there, but I'm using this default data loader that's by n8n. So you can leave the mode as load all input data, and this will automatically detect by meme type, meaning that it will be able to grab any type of file. So whether it's a CSV file, a document, or whatever it may be, so we'll be able to detect that. The cursive character splitter here, so I'm splitting text because you have to chunk the document into several chunks, so that way you can have the database handle and grab the context. So you can specify the chunk size. If it's a smaller document, stick around between 300 to 500, but if it's a larger document, obviously you will increase the chunk size. And then the chunk overlap is always a good practice to be able to make sure that it grabs all of the contents inside of that document. All right, so we're done there. So let's go ahead and test this workflow. So if I click on test workflow, now you will see right now, as you can see, there is no records here yet. So if we go through this now, and if I click on test workflow, now it's going to go ahead and download that file, and it's going to upload it inside the vector database. And if we go back and see inside our Pinecone console here, you'll be able to see that that got updated. So now there you go, now 34 items. So if I go back here and I refresh the page, now it should have those records inside here. All right, perfect, there you go. So now, as you can see, all of that got uploaded here into different vectors. And if I click on the namespace here, you can see the number of vectors. It says 34, and that has the same matching right here. It says 34 items. So now we know that it got properly updated. So the next step is to provide a question and answer chain. Because I built this as a RAG, obviously for this demo purposes, I'm just using a chat message. You can add this inside a Slack channel. So you can add a Slack trigger here. So that way your client can interact with this directly from their Slack channel, or from Gmail or whatever it may be. So there's lots of different options here. If you're building this locally, you can use Open Web UI to be able to create a user interface for your clients as well. But for this purposes, chat is going to be fine. So I'm going to go ahead inside the question and answer chain, because this is where the we need to prompt this system to make sure that it's telling, or it's grabbing all of the questions and answer pairs that exist inside this RFP document. Because as you can see right here, I have all this. Let me zoom in a little bit. I have all these questions and answers. And again, this is the data that your client will have from the previous RFPs that they have done. So you will insert all of it here. And what I'm prompting the system here for this question and answer chain is telling it, hey, you need to retrieve all of the question and answer pairs that closely match the query, right? Because whatever now the user, in your case, or in our case, the user is going to be the client that is filling a new RFP. So therefore, we want to be able to give them the option to review all of the existing answers and questions that are similar to the new question that they're entering for this new RFP, and then they can make that selection themselves. Again, this was the requirement from the client, that they wanted to have the ability to review all of the existing or previous question and answers so they can make that decision themselves as far as what to grab. So that's why for the prompt here is very, very important. You want to tell it that retrieve all of the pairs, question and answer pairs from the database that match the query, right? And again, I'm saying ensure that you return multiple relevant pairs whenever possible to allow the user to choose the most accurate match. So this is very, very important. If you don't put this system prompt, it's just going to answer the question just like a RAG would. So make sure you do this. Once you're done, obviously you will attach a chat model. I'm attaching my GPT-4 mini. If you have a large data set, you should maybe update this to use GPT-4 because that's a more powerful model. And then you'll add a vector store retriever. This is obviously to be able to retrieve the information that we just added here into our vector store. And then I'm adding my Pinecone vector store. Same thing, you want to make sure you're selecting the proper index to make sure it's giving you the accurate information. So that's done. And then same thing, embedding model, you'll make sure that you're selecting the same embedding model. In our case, it's the text embedding 3 small. All right, good. So now we're good to go here. So let's go ahead and actually test this thing out, right? So I'm going to click on chat. The first thing I'm going to ask is, what services do you offer? So now it should be able to grab all of the question and answer pairs that already exist in our database or in this RFP Q&A that we did. So let's go ahead and enter and see what it grabs. All right, perfect. There you go. So now you can see it's actually grabbing the most relevant information. And not only that, but it's grabbing the exact question and answer pair that is inside this document, right? And on top of that, as you can see, another thing that I forgot to point out, that each question, there's an identifier that which project this was from. So same thing, as you can see right here, this is grabbing that question and answer pair with the project name that's there. So that way the client has the ability to choose themselves what they want to provide in the new RFP that they're filling, right? So this is super helpful because now you can see exactly how accurate this thing is, right? So now if we try something else, so let's say the new question for this new RFP is, how do you handle unexpected risks? So if I enter this, now it should grab all of the questions and answers that are related to this query exactly the way it is inside the document. There you go. Perfect, right? You can see right here, not only is it grabbing the understanding the context, it's also based on the prompt, the system prompt that we did. It's grabbing the question and the answer chain, answer pair exactly as it is on this document that we inserted. So that's why I said this is very powerful, because this gives you the ability to handle and control all of the responses that you're getting from this particular RAG, right? So let's try one more. So I'm going to say, how do you control project costs? So let's go ahead and enter this, and this able to do the same thing. This will grab all of the question and answers that are matching to this particular query. And again, the beauty of this thing is that, like I said, it does understand the concept or the context behind the question, and therefore, as you can see right here, all of the question and answer pairs that it provided is related to this exact question. And now as a customer or as a client, I have the ability to choose the most relevant question and answer chain, the most relevant answer that I could provide for this new RFP that I'm doing. So that's why you can see this is very, very powerful and really unique way to get rid of the archaic, RFP that exists already. I mean, obviously the bigger clients will utilize very expensive software, but for small and medium-sized businesses, this is perfect because, this is going to be very cheap to build for them. And then it's almost like also a one-time build, right? But on top of that, you can always have this relationship where if they need to update this, you can have that relationship with the client that they will reach out to you and you can charge them extra to be able to update this RAG for them. So again, super useful. Feel free to play around because there's a lot of things you could do with this. You can build this for different industries. Like I said, at least in the US, there's a lot of industries and a lot of companies that require RFP whenever a project being selected or whenever a contractor is being selected. So therefore, you can see this as a very useful project that you can sell yourself or your clients. And if you're somebody who's a small business or a medium-sized business owner, if you're interested in building this out for yourself, please feel free to reach out to me and go to my website here, airworkshop.me. You can book a consultation call and we can discuss your business needs, so that way we can work together and make your business processes efficient, whether it's for this RFP or the other AI agent that could really utilize and make your businesses a lot better. Make sure you reach out. The link will be in the description. Feel free to set up a free consultation call so we can discuss what we can do to make your business more efficient. All right, well, thanks for watching. Hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Please make sure you subscribe and like the video, because I've got some really great things that are upcoming in the pipeline. You want to make sure you don't miss that. Again, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.